Hello, and welcome to this podcast episode. Today, I want to talk about a phenomenon I've seen in my research, one that is present when a company starts to scale up. It starts like this: a company is growing fast, there's energy, there's a bit of chaos, but things are getting done, everyone is wearing multiple hats, and decisions are made quickly. But then the organization hits a new stage of maturity. Sales are increasing, and many people are getting hired. To handle the scale, leadership introduces new structures, new processes, new reporting lines, new software, new rules. The intention is always good, to bring order to the chaos, to make things more predictable, and to scale effectively. But then something happens. Things start to slow down. Suddenly, a decision that used to take a 5-minute conversation now requires a form, 3 approvals, and a 2-week waiting period. And you start to see people quietly working around the new rules just to get their jobs done. Does any of that sound familiar? It raises a key question for any leader. Why does adding structure, which is meant to help us scale, so often feel like it's holding us back? That's what we're going to explore today. The gap between what leaders ask for and the environments they actually create. At the heart of this problem is a fundamental conflict. Every organization, especially in a highly regulated market, is torn between 2 essential needs. On one hand, there's the need to move fast, to be agile, to innovate and respond to opportunities and threats in real time. On the other hand, there's the need to be consistent, reliable, and predictable. And we need quality controls, stable systems, and processes that ensure we deliver the same products and services every single time. Now here's where the complications start. Leaders, understandably, stand up in front of the company and ask for both. They say we need to be fast and solve problems, and in the very next breath they say, and we need to hit our quality targets and follow the new process to the letter. They demand speed and they demand stability, and the problem is they often don't provide a way for those 2 demands to coexist peacefully. The demands are contradictory within the system you've provided. So, what happens? The burden falls on your team to figure out how to resolve the paradox, and that's where things get complicated. Let me share what I found in the company I was studying. It was a tech company. They were building service robots, and they were experts at moving fast and iterating. But then they decided to enter a new market: healthcare. Now, healthcare is subject to intense regulation, patient safety, and the need for documentation. You can't just move fast and break things. So leadership did the right thing. They invested heavily in building new, rigorous processes for quality assurance. However, the technical debt put their new system to the test. The engineers started hearing 2 very different messages from their leaders. On the one hand, the new team from quality and compliance would say, you must follow the new documentation protocol for every single code change. There are no exceptions. It was a completely reasonable and necessary demand. But at the same time, messages would come from the customer service and sales teams saying that multiple clients have bugs, which are technical issues that need to be fixed urgently. This was also a completely reasonable demand. Acting fast to help clients that are using their robots. So what does an engineer on the front lines do? The official process for making decisions and fixing bugs could take weeks. But the business needed it as soon as possible. They were caught. If they followed the rules, they would fail the business. If they served the business, they had to break the rules. You can probably guess what happened. They worked around the system, they worked fast and fixed issues, but internally it created chaos. The official documentation was now out of sync with the actual product. The quality team felt completely undermined, and the engineering team felt like they were being forced to operate in the shadows, unsupported by the very processes that were meant to help them. This led to conflict, blame, and a breakdown in communication between the teams. This brings us to the core insight. The employees were doing exactly what they thought was right to help the company succeed. The problem was that the leadership had created a system where the official rules made it impossible to achieve the stated urgent goals. They were asking for two things: consistency and responsiveness, that couldn't coexist within the structures they had built. The rules said one thing, but urgency dictated another, leaving the employees stranded in the middle to find their own solutions. This leads to burnout, risk, and a lack of trust. So ask yourself this: as a leader, are you creating a system where your team has to choose between following your rules and achieving your goals? If the answer is yes, then the workarounds you see aren't an employee problem, they're a design problem. And this design problem has hidden costs. It's not just about inefficiency, it's about the slow erosion of your company's culture. When workarounds become the norm, trust evaporates, not just between employees and leaders, but between departments. The quality team starts to see engineering and production teams as reckless, and engineering and production sees quality as bureaucratic roadblocks. Collaboration dies, furthermore innovation stalls. True innovation requires psychological safety, the freedom to experiment, fail, and learn within a stable framework. But in a culture of workarounds, there is no safety. People aren't thinking about the next great idea, they're focused on navigating the political landmines of the current broken system. So, how do we fix this? How do we build organizations that are both consistent and responsive, agile and reliable? It comes down to 3 key actions. First, stay close to the work. As a leader, it's easy to become disconnected from the day-to-day reality of your teams. You see the clean dashboards, not the messy workarounds. Go to the front lines, ask your people, what's the dumbest rule we have, or what do you have to work around to actually get your job done? The gap between the process on paper and the process in reality is where your biggest opportunities are hiding. Second, create legitimate pathways for responsiveness. If you know that urgent, out-of-process situations are going to happen, and they always do, don't force your people to go rogue. Build a process for the exception. By legitimizing the need for speed, you give people a safe, approved way to respond to urgency without breaking the system or hiding their work. You make the unofficial official. And third, and this might be the most important, acknowledge the paradox openly. Have a conversation with your team about the natural tension between moving fast and controlling the processes. Frame it as a paradox that you all have to manage together, not a problem that can be solved once and for all. Say things like, I know our standard process is X, but I also recognize this situation is unique and requires a different approach. Let's figure out the right way to handle this exception together. This simple act builds incredible trust and psychological safety. It shows you understand their reality and you're in it with them. To wrap up, the workarounds and shadow operations you might see in your organization are rarely a sign of bad employees. More often, they are a symptom of a well-intentioned but flawed system. A system where leaders ask for conflicting outcomes. Structure without agency is a trap. It forces people to choose between breaking rules and failing at their jobs. The goal isn't to eliminate rules, but to build resilient systems that can bend without breaking. Thank you for listening.